Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. For this video, I thought I would kickstart a theme month, as in a series of videos that will be posted over the course of a single month, where I talk about one specific theme. You've been on YouTube long enough, I assume, to know how how things like this work. And the theme I have chosen for this month is Marvel May, where I'll be talking about how I would adapt the various Marvel stories to the to uh, a it would be wrong to call it a visual format, but more to a perhaps audio visual format. So TV adaptations, more specifically animated TV adaptations. Why is that the case? Well, in the past year, I have to say that both movie and TV adaptations of not just of the MCU but of Marvel properties more generally have kind of fallen to the wayside in terms of quality, and I kind of want to get back to what makes uh, Marvel and an interesting property to talk about. What are its themes? What are its stories? And what kind of narratives can be told within that space. And as X-Men '97 has proven, and as Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is currently showcasing, the animated medium seems to work quite effectively for towards those ends. And it is for these reasons that I want to look at creating a shared universe for for various animated Marvel properties. Especially given that having that foundation in place will then be can then be used to create some interesting further adaptations for both film and TV later down the line. But for now, I'm going to talk about the animated series I had in mind, starting with the first Avenger, Captain America, and this with this very fancy picture right here. Oh, by the way, you're going to see a lot of pictures in this video. All of the pictures of Marvel figures are from the Marvel Wiki, the Marvel Fandom Wiki to be more accurate, and any other pictures are from the virtual space and assumed to be published under fair use, or at least I'm using them under the premises of fair use. I do not claim ownership of any of the images you're about to see. Anyway, legal disclaimer out of the way. I'll now start talking, and I think the Captain America series should start during during World War II. And in fact, I envision the first episode starting quite similarly to how the Captain America Super Soldier video game started, where you have two soldiers who are talking about Captain America, but they with one of them being somewhat of an idealist who hopes to meet him, hopes to and really believes in the ideal that he represents, and then another guy who will be more cynical and say that the captain is just a poster child. Everything he's doing is staged and stuff like that. Whereas he and his partner, they are the real fighting force. And as this discussion is ongoing, they find themselves attacked by a Nazi unit, which takes out a lot of their unit, and is accompanied by by some kind of death machine that the Nazis will have deployed to the to the front lines. And as the situation is looking bleak for them, they notice that that machine is attacked by something that bounces around and then comes right back to where it was thrown. They turn to see where it's been thrown, and they see not only our hero, but also the people behind him, the Howling Commandos. And yes, because this Captain America series, or at least the first season, will heavily feature the Howling Commandos. And unfortunately, that will also mean that there will be a white Nick Fury. I like Sam Jackson, and I really think his portrayal of Nick Fury really really has a lot to it. But for the sake of for the sake of not just historical authenticity but also comic book authenticity, the new guy is gonna have to be white. Sorry. Anyway, they show up. They push the Nazis back a little bit, and when it looks as though they are about to bounce back, in comes Bucky. Yeah, I'm not presenting him as this, and I'm not presenting him as this massive force multiplier that is guaranteed to win. No, he is. No, he's very much an aid to the other guys, and that is what his depiction throughout the series is going to showcase him. Is also going to showcase him as working. Sorry about that. Working alongside all of them, using his gymnastics, maybe even a little bit of his circus performer training, in order to tip the balance in their favor, and ultimately allow Cap and the Howling Commandos to win. And then Cap will talk a little bit to the two soldiers, ask them if they're all right, to maybe give them self-mental indications of what they should do, and maybe even praise them for how well they did until then, before they retreat away. And in their retreat, we see Bucky and Cap go together in a tent, unwinding, stripping from their costumes, and then Bucky can go about how amazing Captain America was on the field as usual, and as they talk, I think this would be a good opportunity to showcase the origin story of Captain America, because the first Captain America movie is 14 years old now as of the time of this video's both production and release. So a retelling of the origin might be quite welcome, especially given we're once again reinstating Barnes as a younger man, or a teenager who is otherwise supporting a war effort that is a war effort carried out by full-grown ass men. So he wouldn't have that same connection the MCU has, for example. And in this retelling, Cap is found after standing up for himself, but still getting his ass beat by Dr. Erskine, who while walking through the Bronx alongside Sergeant Nick Fury, sees the young man who is troubled but still standing up, and finds himself impressed by his fortitude, and therefore he and Fury decide to train him secretly in order to make sure that he knows the procedures, the drills that a soldier would have to know. And then so the soldier would have to know. Maybe even someone of a higher rank, depending on how depending on for how long they how much time they can spend with him. And then once his training is complete, he gets into the he gets to be showcased to the he gets to be Erskine's test subject, and in that in that demonstration that makes him Captain America in order to in order to empower that demonstration that is meant to prove the merit of creating several units of superpowered soldiers. And the test runs. Stephen Rogers works phenomenally. However, Erskine is still killed, and a lot of the equipment and research necessary to create him still ends up being destroyed, but not by a Hydra agent, or more precisely, not by an agent of the original Hydra, but by an agent of the domestic or American Hydra, because as this cartoon by Dr. Seuss, which has been doing the rounds a while back, has shown, there has been during the in the preamble to World War II, there has been a sizable white supremacist movement within the U.S. as well. So it is quite likely that after Hydra will have established itself within Nazi Germany, an American branch would have would have also emerged. One that would have also infiltrated the military to the point where they would have to the point where they could have followed Erskine and sabotaged his experiment. And because of that, this American Hydra, because of their actions against the Captain America project, this American Hydra ends up becoming the target of the U.S. military, and Cap himself could lead the effort to destroy it. So in that sense, Captain America's first deployment will be could be counterterrorism, or precisely domestic counterterrorism, which I think is an interesting enough story to tell, and it is something you could tell in the 1 or 2 episodes of an animated series. By the way, I am assuming that this for all for all series that I will be talking about throughout this month, I'm assuming that they will be 3 seasons long. Each season will have 13 episodes. I don't know. That seems like the most correct assumption one could make with regards to what can come out given the production efforts necessary. Okay, with that out of the way, the episode could close on Peggy Carter showing up to debrief the Howling Commandos, let them know what they've done, and also tell them that they have another job, and that for that they have to show up at some other place, some other time, and they prepare to move out. And that's kind of how I imagine the first several episodes would unfold, with Carter telling the Howling Commandos that they have to go to a certain place and execute a specific mission, and over the course of that mission, and they'll encounter one of Cap's Nazi villains. That could be the Prophet of Hate, that could be the Axis Man, that could be Stryker, that could be Baron Zemo, etc., etc. But the basic premise is going to be basically the same as the Captain America Super Soldier video game I've mentioned, but somewhat simplified. They are tasked with going to a base and doing a thing. They go to a base, things don't necessarily turn out as well as they could, but they manage to turn it around. Maybe they'll maybe also face off against one of Cap's most notorious villains, and that's how it would go for. That's going to go for half, or maybe a little bit more than half, up until, let's say, episode either 7 or 8 or 9, when Red Skull finally shows up, or is finally mentioned, or maybe he is audacious enough to actually attack the Howling Commandos base directly and manage to abduct Peggy Carter. At which point, Cap and the Howling Commandos take it upon themselves to actually, to undertake a rescue mission, and that rescue mission will pit them against their, against their most notable challenge yet. Not just the Skull himself, but also the organization that he is able to bring around himself. Maybe there could even be some returning villains. And over the course of these episodes, I imagine that the Howling Commandos, as well as Cap himself, would get to encounter, release, and maybe even fight alongside a variety of different people. That could include, ethnic minorities, black people, Asian people. That could include queer people. That could even include mutants, because this is the Marvel universe, and establishing them early on is something that I would be interested in. Something that I'd be interested in doing for the future of this new of this shared world. Anyway, back to the Red Skull episode, or episodes, depending on whether it's a two-parter. And yeah, it happened. And yeah, it happens. They go to the castle. They might they go to or the Red Skull's base. They might find something a little bit. They might find themselves against more trouble than they expected. However, at the same time, I expect Peggy herself to also be able to free herself and maybe even do some damage. Maybe even do some damage on the way out. And then they reconvene either in the castle itself and then break out, or both parties, the Commandos and Peggy, break out individually and then reconvene somewhere outside of it. I am not exactly sure what. But the point, however, one more point I want to address over the course of this episode is that they find plans that prove that the Skull is planning something big. What's that something big? They plan to attack the United States itself. And they find that there are various locations that are important to the Skull in order for him to carry out his plans. And those locations also map out the remainder of the season, where they are supposed to show up, and how they are supposed to counter it. That being said, their victories over the Red Skull's operation will not be complete, because they are not, or more precisely, the Red Skull will be a little bit more ambitious than they expect, because he's actually preparing an entire bomber fleet to create an entire bomber fleet with which to attack the United States. And really the efforts of the Howling Commandos, as well as Cap, Bucky, and Peggy, ultimately only reduce the scope of what Red Skull sets out to do. And I imagine in the episode before the finale, Bucky himself could get captured and could get somehow caught in a place that he shouldn't be, because he's an exuberant kid and ends up passing away. Because that's kind of Bucky's thing, that he appears to pass away. And then everyone's feeling a little bit remorseful, but then they enter into the finale with a renewed for Bucky sense of purpose, and they uh, yeah, what can I say? The Howling Commandos managed to stop the overall operation, but the Red Skull still manages to send out one plane. Cap manages to sneak on it, and from that point forward, you know how the fight goes. Cap is able to defeat a Red Skull in hand-to-hand combat somehow. Maybe he launches him out of the plane while doing so, but finds that he can't stop the plane from delivering its cargo. So instead, he decides to dive it, or to basically sink it into the ice, and destroy its mission that ways. And that is how he appears to be gone, only to be found out in a block of ice decades later, but not too many decades later. And I think this will be the real difference maker between my adaptation and other Captain America adaptations, because for the most part, Captain America, when he's revived, is revived in whatever present day of the adaptation within which he is revived. But I suggest that Captain America should instead, in this new story, be revived earlier, much earlier than modern day. To be more precise, I think he should be revived in 1965, right when the Vietnam War is starting to heat up. And then he's found out, he's fought out, and a lot of the higher ups in the military, some with whom the captain himself might either be friends with or have a connection to, might be friends with or a more antagonistic relationship with, could declare, "Oh, good, he's here. He helped us defeat them. He helped us defeat them Krauts. Now we can use him to defeat the Yellow Commies as well." Cap, however, I think would be a conscientious objector to the Vietnam conflict. He would be like, "Why the hell are we in Vietnam? What is it? That brings nothing to us. That brings nothing to the people there either." He could still show up as a conscientious objector, but he wouldn't be as active within the combat. He would, he might step up if the threat his unit comes against is of sufficient strength, such as maybe some former war buddies of his from the former war buddies of his from the other side. Now, coming into the also being deployed in Vietnam in order to help out, their side, and that could be a good opportunity to explore, patriotism, to explore duty, and to explore justice, and how exactly these factors intersect. It could also be where I think Cap encounters Sam Wilson. Obviously, he won't immediately make him his successor or the next Falcon or next Captain America right there and then. But I think he will have somewhat of a more protective relationship towards him. Maybe he notices that the good old boys that are also in his unit aren't exactly treating him fairly, and he will he'll step up to defend him. So yeah, and I think that would be the dynamic of at least the first few episodes of this second season, with him facing off against against Soviet superheroes and trying to protect his new buddy Sam. He might even run into a revived, brainwashed Bucky. Maybe maybe trying to bring him back into the fold, maybe. However, more importantly, for the sake of this season, he he does his tour of duty, and then when he comes back, he becomes like he stops just being a conscientious objector and becomes full on anti the Vietnam War, and it could be in his endeavor against the Vietnam War that he and his potential new handler Sharon Carter would find a little bit more find more solidarity within this anti-war cause, and it could be through the hippie movement or through the general student protest vibe that he would perhaps lay the groundwork for the Captain's Network, something with which an association through which he'll be able to spread his message and tell people that they should stand up to what is right, no matter what no matter what other people tell him, which is what Cap himself is quite often about. And I imagine that his higher ups will be, the higher ups will be somewhat displeased with this development, and in effect that, and they could, as a result, release various old enemies of Captain America from the from the World War II. Either formerly Nazi Nazi officials who have been brought into the U.S. through Operation Paperclip, or maybe their descendants, that are legacy characters. So, and therefore, which would therefore mean that. Which would mean that Cap would have, would have his work cut out for him. Sorry, my throat's going a little bit. Okay, meaning that Cap would have his work cut out with him for him fighting his former enemies, including perhaps Red Skull himself. I do see him still being active, but maybe on a smaller scale. Smaller, but still, but perhaps all the more dangerous because of that. Because those guys are much more fanatic and are more willing to, do whatever it takes for the, whatever it takes for the cause. Also, I do kind of imagine a secret empire situation going on, where U.S. government conspiracy is unleashed in order to defeat Captain America. However, I don't think they would be able to outfight him. They might be able to convince him to step down otherwise. I imagine the catalyst for that would actually be Watergate. Not necessarily that it happens, but that its perpetrator Nixon would get pardoned by his successor, and that really to him showcases what kind of influence his enemies have, and realizes that brute force won't necessarily work. This could be where he decides to shift tactics and renounce the Captain America name in order to go by Nomad. With however, the Captain America logo itself could still be taken over either by Sam Wilson or by a potentially reformed Bucky. However, I don't think the show will necessarily follow them. I still want this to be to be about Steve Rogers, who I do have to say that after Watergate would still remain more in the background, more as a covert agent as Nomad, and would stay that way for a long while until 9/11. And with 9/11 we reach season 3 of the Captain America show. Also, you'll notice I kind of just now realized that there is a 20 20-ish year hiatus, or time jump between seasons. That was not actually my intention. That was not actually my intention going in, but that is but I guess that is how it turned out. And I think the 9/11 attacks would spur Cap into giving up the Nomad persona and adopting Captain America, Captain America badge again. Why is that? Well, because I think he would see the writings on the wall, so to speak, and he would see that he would see that something bad is happening, and people get scared, people lash out, and those who are opportunistic take advantage of the people wanting to lash out in order to direct them who to lash out against. He will have seen it. He will have seen it in Vietnam, given given his friendship with Sam Wilson. He will have seen it like in the aftermath of various civil rights protests when people tried to stop protesters or tell them they're unpatriotic or stuff like that. And he is, for the same reason, quite confident that something similar will happen. Will happen in this situation, because some people did something bad, and bad guys did a bad thing, and now people are gonna get scared and lash out against those who have some similarities to the to the bad guys. That being said, season 3 will not just be another retelling of not just be a retelling of season 2, only taking place a long time later. Instead, I see it as divided between 3 story arcs, which I will tentatively call Captain America Returns, Captain America Strikes Again, and Captain America Beyond. Yes, those names are very deliberately chosen, because I very much want to tell the story of an older, perhaps more embittered Captain America, who will have seen more of the failures of his mission, but nevertheless be convinced that his mission is the correct thing to do. And within his late resurgence, he will find, he could potentially find a successor, someone who he can train again, such as to avoid the Bucky issue, and then potentially pass on his mantle as a form of legacy and responsibility. And I think the best candidate for that would be Ariel Agbayani, who is a Filipino student at a college somewhere in Boston. The Philippines already have a connection to the U.S., and so someone like them embodying a form of a refined or revised form of the American ideals, especially on U.S. soil, is something that I think would speak to Cap, and I think he would be very much drawn to Ariel as his protege. And as I said, this third season will be split between 3 story arcs. One where Cap reemerges within the area of where Ariel is part of the Captain's Network that I've talked about being established in the being established by Cap in the 60s as a anti-Vietnam War movement. Would be active in, and maybe even having some friends around who can help her do what it is what it is that she needs to do in keeping with the ideals that they all ascribe to. I have to. Cap would, Cap would show up over there to express his support, and because he expects a larger degree of resistance than any of, than any of them assumed would occur, and well, he shows up. He, he defeats the threat. Ariel supports him quite a lot, and they have a friendship. And Cap has a new, not only has a return to his, original persona, but also a trusty new set of commandos by his side. The next story will feature them. I imagine the next story could feature the Skull, the Red Skull, also returning, and potentially that being the final battle between the Cap, between Cap and the Skull. One it would leave Red Skull dead, but it would also leave Ariel and Cap quite heavily wounded, and it would be within that situation that I think Cap would have a choice. Either donate some of his blood to Ariel so she can heal, but he would lose, but he wouldn't be able to recover as effectively, and therefore no longer be strong enough to remain as Captain America, or leave her to her fate, or ease her passing, so to speak, and simply allow himself to heal. Cap obviously will be the hero. He will choose to do the right thing and will give blood. Maybe someone could make an allusion to She-Hulk now, because that's also how She-Hulk gained her powers. And that happens, and Ariel gets to have the maximum physical potential that Captain America Captain America has. Only he has to now get back to a support role. And in the final, say, 4 or 5 episode arc of the season, and potentially of the series as well, we will get to see Ariel in her first mission under the new, under the full Captain America, under the full Captain America mantle, and how she is able to present herself, and how she is able to contend with whatever issue is. Not exactly sure who the most appropriate villain in this case would be, but I imagine it would be Baron Zemo, someone who will have had, someone who might not be the most prominent, but has been more or less in continuity has been more or less active for a long enough time, throughout all of Cap, and he would therefore represent, to some extent, the evil of the world. The baseline evil of the world that would always be around, and her being able to take him out means that the new generation is now fully ready to take on the perils that are that have to be overcome in order to make the world a better place for the future. And yeah, this is, broadly speaking, my suggestion for a Captain America animated series. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the idea behind the pitch, or the idea of my pitch, or the ideas I explore in my pitch, well then that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I talk about book-related and literature topics, a link to which you can find in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. If you, however, want to hear my thoughts, more of my thoughts outside of topics outside of the book and literature medium, then I suggest you stay on this channel and go for my extensive backlog of various reboots, remakes, prompts, occasionally political commentary, and really anything I can think of, really. If none of that speaks to you, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. So, until next time, I have been the One Take Man.